Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Universal Furniture. I'm Kayla Miller, the Director of Marketing here at Universal. Before I hand this over to Kaitlin and our beautiful panel, I have a few things to highlight about this fall market. So we've introduced two new collections this market, Dwell, which is located on floor 2, as well as an addition to our modern collection on floor 3. We also have our amazing market party that'll be happening as the doors let out, so you guys are more than welcome to join us for that. We have a dedicated designer's lounge that's located in the lobby as well. Please come back. The party's gonna be starting after this, but you can explore our showroom, check in at the front desk. You get a scanner, and everything that you scan while you're here in our showroom, you'll get an emailed wish list of all the things that you've scanned with the pictures, the pricings, the dimensions, and all the information. So I'm gonna turn this over to Kaitlin if everyone wants to give me a big warm welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm Kaitlin Petersen. I'm the editor-in-chief of Business of Home. I'm so thrilled to be with all of you today. Thank you so much for coming. And I just wanted to say a special thank you to Universal for hosting us today, for having a space like this one, for encouraging important conversations in the industry, and for being such a great designer partner and designer resource. So thank you. This is gonna be a fun one. At Business of Home, we publish a quarterly magazine. In our most recent issue, we started exploring the idea of the investments that you make in your business. Whether you are, a few months in to your business or saving, whether you're several decades into your business or saving, understanding where to put your money, how to make it go the furthest, how to make it have the most impact on your business, I think is a constant question that we hear again and again and again. So everybody here actually answered that question for us, was talking about some of the investments they've made in their business, in the magazine. And we're gonna zoom out even further today and just talk about all the different ways, large and small, that you can start spending on your business, that you can start thinking about return on investment, leveling up, and really using your resources widely. I am here with Christina Samatas and Renee DiSanto of Park and Oak, Swati Goorha, Beth Diana Smith, and Susie Novak. We're gonna dive in right now. In the early phase of each of your businesses, you invest a little bit differently than maybe all of you do today. And I wanna start at the beginning. When you're thinking small, when saving feels more challenging maybe, what was it like to save up that first time, to spend on something for the first time? How did you get yourself ready to make that investment? We're gonna go out of order. Beth, I'm actually gonna pick on you first.
Okay.
Because I know you invested in kind of templatizing your business, and you invested in your process at the beginning. Can you tell us a little bit about how that set you up for success?
So in general, I'm very OCD, and I have an accounting and finance background. So I can't function without a process. I need organization. And what it did is just help me hone in and make sure that no steps got missed. Nothing was gonna fall through the cracks, and also making sure that not only did the process both internally and externally go flawlessly, but that it also looked good.
What did you buy exactly?
Outside of probably the most important thing is buying a website that someone else was going to do and templatizing it so I could make the update without sending it to this person, paying them again for the adjustment if it was needed. But I first bought what I would say it was a bit of a mix. The first time I did my contract, I did it myself. Bad idea 101. Then I worked with a lawyer to kind of outline what I wanted to include versus exclude, which was great. But then I bought a contract template that was geared towards interior designers, because my lawyer, his specialty was not interior design. His specialty was working with brands. So I used that template versus how I ran my business versus what my lawyer thought I should be doing. And he was able to use that same template that would work, that I would just be able to change very little things, just 2 sections, project scope and money. And then it became so much simpler because when I look back at how I did it, I was like, you were really going through all these pages every time you had to do a new contract. So it was that making adjustments to my budget template because I was in accounting and finance. For me, Excel is like relaxation. Don't judge me too hard. But using that and making that one huge template and like having someone work with me to just make sure that everything looked good versus it looking kind of DIY because I'm not a graphic designer.
Swati, you invested in software, which I think is sort of the parallel, right? You have systems and you have software. Why was that so important to you right out of the gate?
So I had all the systems in place. Yeah. And one of the things that I realized was even though I was a new firm, when I put my step forward, I didn't want my clients to feel like I was a new firm. I wanted to make sure that every step of the way, because we are a luxury product, we have to make sure that we are serving that luxury experience in every single touch point, and nothing, like Beth said, looks DIY, because we don't want DIY clients. So why would we put that kind of face in front? So having that software was very important because that's the client-facing part of it. My proposals go out to the clients online, and they look at it, they have the flexibility of being able to pay it with credit cards or ACH transfer. If they didn't want to pay the fee, initially I used to absorb the fee, but then I learned better and I was giving it to them. I was like, that's a lot, 3.5% or 1.2%. That's a lot of margin that's going out of my pocket. But as you grow, you learn a lot of new things, and you learn, where are the touch points where you can improve your margins. So having that software really made my life easy. And I used to work with other firms, and they all had some kind of system for making proposals and not just sending DIY Word documents or Excel sheets and stuff like that. So our proposals look very, very professional. And then when they approve, they would convert into invoice, and that would be sent to the client. And now they know what they've paid and what they owe. It helps us keep everything in track, because money coming in and money going out, and then we converted into purchase orders, and that was very streamlined because we just had to change the shipping address, make some adjustments on what we are paying. And when I started out, I was a single woman firm. So, it really made my life easy, not to going to 3 different places and making a purchase order separately and proposals. All I had to do was proposal, then invoice it, then send purchase order out. So that, I think that was the wisest investment. We still use the same software, and it's still every single day, my team is this is the best.
Was there a concern at the beginning, this is really expensive? How did you justify the cost in the early days?
When you start out your business, everything's expensive, because everything's out of pocket. You don't have any money coming in. You're basically using all your savings and whatever money you have to invest in your business. But then again, anything you start, if you're bootstrapping it yourself, it's expensive. But then you have to realize you have to focus on what's important and what's not. Having a website for me was very important, because otherwise, how will people find me? Having this software was very important, because that if I did not have that, I would be making errors, or the face I put in front of my clients wouldn't be very professional. And I had worked with other companies that used it, and I used it with them. So that really helped me understand this is very important aspect to keep everything in check. Having those Excel sheets, having that the whole system, and then being able to convert it into Excel sheets and create project management sheets, it was really, really easy. So I think it was very important for me to understand that whatever the client sees should be simple, easy to use, and foolproof.
I love that. Christina and Renee, you outsourced accounting early on. Can you tell me a little bit about why that was a place you wanted to spend?
Sure. Renee and I have the benefit of working with each other. So we are the yin and the yang of each other, the benefit there is that oftentimes, where I'm weak, she's strong, or vice versa, but neither one of us had any strength in accounting. So that was really an easy decision for us, because we needed to evaluate where we should invest, when we should invest in this. And accounting was a clear winner, because when I was taking it over, it was a disaster. When she was taking it over, it was sort of a disaster. And that is a real quick way to fail.
Excel is not relaxing at all. Gives me panic attacks, actually. So we needed someone else who really enjoys that.
How did you, who were you looking for, or what skill set exactly was important for you when you were kind of evaluating someone to bring in for something like that?
We would approach it, and honestly, we still approach it this way, in the respect that accounting literally is Greek to us. Like it is a different language that we don't speak. And so we needed this person to be able to understand the language, and to also at the same time be able to teach and inform us. Because I think in the beginning of our business, we didn't do as great of a job at that. We were just trusting this person to be able to handle all of it, know all of it, and do all of it, because we were so busy doing other things. We have since taken a step back and really taken the time to be educated along the way with the person in this position. So we did hire someone who had an accounting background and who could sit down and explain like the very basics down to like what a P&L is, or how it should work, or how it should look, and what, all kinds, AR, and all of these fun terms that like we didn't know going into this, and now gratefully do. But I will admit, I did not have that education for several years into the business.
Does understanding better, those reports, those kind of those numbers, does it inform how you're able to make decisions now?
Absolutely. So we're looking at that monthly now.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, we were not.
Yeah.
And we were just kind of, we were taking risks, and it didn't matter back then, but now it matters a lot more. So we are looking at those numbers on a monthly basis and learning with our accountant.
Yeah.
Also understanding like what accounts make the most sense, like where do we have the largest margins, like where should we be pushing, certain things, so that you do have the opportunity to make, more money. Because at the end of the day, what we've learned is that like time billing, covers things, but it doesn't really like move the needle. You really need to get the accounts where you have larger profit basis, and that's helpful too, especially when something comes in and it's wrong and you have to take it back or something. It's not as big of a ouch, Mm-hmm.
One more. Susie, tell us about your business coach, because you went looking for guidance when you were ready to sort of make some changes in your firm.
In the beginning, I was kind of, I'm very much kind of like a classic creative, and I kind of jumped into, the design projects. I did go to a design school. I guess that was my first big investment. That was highly worth it. I worked at like a firm for a short period. It was essentially like an amazing internship. Part of my schooling, and for a lot of reasons, I just started like doing my own thing, and I didn't have the systems, and so and I was really kind of like reacting to things and putting the fires out as they came whenever I was like running my projects, which was just like obviously not sustainable. Initially I did a business consulting program where it's kind of those like, you pay like, one time, and then there was like this cool summit in Las Vegas during Vegas Market, and you get kind of like really great deliverables and some informational sessions. And that was an excellent investment. But I do have to say, anything like that has like a very clear system to it and process, which is what I was buying into, but I found that like there were certain elements of it that weren't right for me or authentic to me. So I think it's really important to look to these amazing consultants for what you need and what you can, get out of them, but also to kind of really distill it and say, okay, well, I do things, a little bit differently, because we all sort of follow like generally the same system and processes, but it's all really very nuanced. We're in different markets, different regions. We work with different types of clients that have different budgets. So I think it's really important to like know yourself and have the confidence to add, tailor, the system to yourself. And so I started doing that, and that was important for me.
Did it feel like a big leap to attend that summit? And what was the most important thing you wanted to get out of it?
I think one of the most important things was actually the contract, and she really taught like putting part of your system in your contract, reading your contract when you're at the initial consultation, and kind of how important the contract is, and how you're kind of referring to that, throughout the project. Now I know more about contracts than I've ever wanted to know. But I also understand the importance of it. If you're doing business with anyone, there's so much interpretation and perception when you're talking about any sort of relationship. And if it's not written down on a piece of paper, whether it's your contract or your meeting notes that we take now at every sort of client meeting and keep on record, you have to be able to refer to something that's in writing.
And for all of you together, after sort of when you see success from that initial investment, how does it start to reshape your thinking, as an entrepreneur about, investing that money back in your business? Like, how did that help you want to keep doing that again? Or did it change the way you thought about spending on your firm? Anyone?
I'll say for me, I felt like it made me want to make sure I was always doing things smarter and like always second guessing my decisions like all the time before I do something, because like I had to make sure that I shifted my thinking from the corporate Beth who had a guaranteed paycheck and like someone else was like investing in my health and benefits and someone was giving me an annual bonus, like all those things, like that was a type of Beth that spent differently. It was kind of like, ooh, I like it, I'm gonna buy it. But in business, you can't do that because now it's, it's really my money and I have to like work extra hard to get it. It just made me want to make sure that I was constantly evaluating and, updating my Excel spreadsheets.
What is that internal checklist?
I mean, it's everything. Like, is there a different way to do this? How is this other designer doing this? Being cognizant that even if, I'm sure all of us, even on this panel, like we all manage our businesses differently. One way isn't necessarily better than the other way. It's just you're running your business based on what works best for you and your market. But it doesn't mean Swati and I have conversations in person, in text, every which way. And we'll have the conversation about like, how are you doing something, or like, who are you using, to see if there's any ways that we can streamline.
And I have to say, business is a constant investment. You have to constantly invest either time or money to keep it, because whatever systems you invested in the beginning, as your firm grows, your needs grow. And like, let's say the beginning website that I did, it was okay for that time. But then after a few years, I realized this website is not doing anything for me. So we moved from WordPress to like Squarespace. I'm sorry, I'm mixing two. So from WordPress to Squarespace, and we built a more dynamic website. We invested in SEO. We invested in systems and contracts. Like, initial contract was much more, simpler, more rudimentary, 3 pages. Now it's a 30-page contract. And we constantly keep upping our systems. And there's anytime something goes wrong with a client or with a vendor, it becomes a system. And you have to constantly up your systems. The day you think you are not upping your systems, so you're done and this is it, this is the peak of your firm, that will be the downfall. You have to constantly keep investing in your business, fixing things, finessing things, no matter how long. And if you're not doing that, you're becoming stale. Because everything moves. Everything's very dynamic. When we started our business, Instagram wasn't a big thing. At least when I started, Facebook was like end all and be all. And then Instagram came, and I was like a late bloomer to Instagram. I was like, I don't think this is going to stay a thing, you know. And then Instagram came, and then I had to get on there, and I would post there once in a month. And then I was like, well, everybody has like so many followers, and I'm like 3, so you know, I kind of have to invest my time and money towards it, you know. So I did that. And then TikTok came. I'm not on TikTok, but like I had to put my foot down. There's only, you know, you have to focus on one thing. But we put a lot of investment in our website. Like we do monthly newsletters. We do, you know, we keep doing some update to our website every month. We added a blog page, a journal page, and that helps a lot with SEO. Somebody was asking me, how do you get a lot of these inquiries? Like, well, our website always pops up in search because we have such strong SEO, but we invested in that. And it's a constant thing. You have to keep investing in your business. So I don't think it ever ends. And there'll be some investments that would be great return on investment. And there'll be some you're like, oh, what a wasted, you know, effort. But unless you try, there's no way to know whether it's going to yield interest. Yeah. But obviously go into it with open eyes, do some research, talk. Having a community is great, you know, community of other designers, or listening to what other people are doing, listening to podcasts, Caitlin's podcast, reading Business of Home, or reading other things that tell you what other people are doing. Because, you know, we all get to live in our bubble. And sometimes we get so myopic, we don't look outside our bubble. But sometimes, you know, when you're going through this really stressful period and you're like, I don't know how to do it. And all you have to do is say, hey, listen, I'm going through this. I went through this like 2 years ago, and this is what I did. So now suddenly, you know, you have that sounding board. All right, you're not the only person going through this, and there's another way to do this instead of spinning yourself in circles.
How do each of you think about saving? If you are, you know, kind of constantly having to invest in the business, what does that actually look like, you know, in your brain and also maybe on a balance sheet? Go ahead.
We're not great with the saving.
No, I'm gonna battle her here because we just got an investment account. I'm so proud of us. We are doing much better now, but we were like investing a ton of money up until now, like constantly. Like it was, and we still are constantly changing and investing like you. But we finally took some money and we're like, okay, this can't be touched. And Renee's like, wait, that money's still there, right? I'm like, yes, you just can't see it because I don't want you to know it's there. It's like gone, it's invested, it's savings. Yeah.
But yes, we've reinvested quite a bit. So
what is that? I mean, this is such a, maybe a silly question, but is that like a separate bank account that's like, here's our next big move? Is that just sort of like the extra that builds up over time? How do you get sort of active about making sure you have the capital to reinvest?
I think in the very beginning for us, literally when we had the funds, we never wanted to take a loan. That was really important to us. So like when we had the funds saved up for something, then we would invest in something, whether it be new computers, a larger space, more people, whatever that might be. Currently, we've now had this investment account for almost 9 months, maybe a year. We had, I'm just reminding you,
yes.
We took this money that was, finally after investing so much and like taking a break from it, we had some funds for the first time in a while, ever actually. And we were like, oh, what should we do with this? Renee's all excited to go buy something. And I'm like, we should save. And so we did. And so that's it. But we
have reinvested quite a bit into it. We take out for ourselves just to live, but then reinvested everything else into the business.
Yeah.
And once there's enough, then there's always that next move. There's what are we going to do next? What are we going to open? Who are we going to hire? Where are we headed?
Yeah.
I think that's maybe our it's like our positive, but it's also our negative. Like we're constantly looking like, oh, what can we buy now for the business? Or like, what can we do now? Where can we grow? How can we keep expanding? So that's what pushes us.
So we're going to talk about that in a minute. Susie, what does saving mean for you?
I've never been great at saving, but I am. Yeah, I agree. Like constant investment, especially when you're in the first 5 to 10 years of your business. It's just anyone who's starting a business is, putting as much of their profit back into the business as you possibly can. But actually, currently, I'm feeling really good about the status of things and my investments thus far and certain things that are being implemented that I've recently invested in. And so now I'm kind of really shoring up and making alterations where we're kind of like, shoring up funds and saving now, because now is the time where I've like invested a lot, and now is the time to see the profit growth in the next year.
And I just want to add really quick, when you take money for like big furniture orders, you typically only have to pay, let's say, 50% down first, right? So you can have that other 50% sitting in your bank account for a long time, or where we started to get smart just this year, you can put it in a money market account where, you can withdraw it instantly if you have to, but then it's making money while it's sitting there, which is also lovely for paying taxes at the end of the year or something. So I think this is like the smartest move we've made this year, is investing money that's not necessarily ours, but it's being held in our bank account until it's needing to be drawn out and making money for us without us doing anything.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I didn't come up with that, but we're doing it.
We're doing that.
Susie, I wanted to go back to you for a second. I wanted to talk, we were talking about like kind of those early investments, but I wanted to talk about some of those investments, the big investments that you're all making now. And I know, Susie, one of yours was getting really serious about PR and what kind of opportunities you can tap into with representation. Can you start us off? I know others have worked with publicists as well, but can you start us off with why you wanted that relationship and why you decided that was where you wanted to put your money?
Yeah, I initially started seeing, other designer friends of mine, getting press, and I was looking up to them, and I was like, wow, that's such a great way to kind of like sort of get street cred and just really kind of be validated in a way that your clients can see, and you can really kind of get bigger and better projects. And that was how it initially started. And so I engaged with, there's a few different ways you can hire a publicist. And one is where they kind of work with you on like a you pay for placement kind of thing. So you give them like a couple projects or a project, and it's over like a shorter period of time, and you pay once it gets placed. Another way is you can hire them for like a couple months for a certain amount of money, and they kind of sort of guarantee that the project will get placed, because they will like advise you on the type of project in the beginning. It's like, okay, this is a full feature, I can definitely get this placed, like pay me like, a certain amount of money, and then over the course of 2 months, and I'll let you know like what happens. And so those are the types I did in the beginning, and that's an amazing way to get started with a publicist, because it's a much lower investment cost, and it was extremely effective, and a great way to get started, and it garnered me a lot of visibility. I actually did my own house was one of my first projects and investments in myself as I was doing other projects, and I sent it to a publicist, and she was like, this is great, but we need the whole house. We were kind of like finishing up like one of the other rooms. So we finished that up, sent her the whole house, and then it got published in Architectural Digest Online, which was like insane, because I had, I never would have thought of that. And so I think that's one of the cool, publicists are kind of like magicians. They're like behind the green curtain, like doing these, weird things, and they're really getting your name out there, and they're seeing you in a way that you aren't necessarily able to see yourself, in terms of like the public lens, and then also in terms of like the design community, and by the design community, I mean also being like a part of the conversation around design, which was another really important thing that I wanted to be a part of, like being put on panels and being interviewed by various magazines for like, what are your like hot tips on colors or kitchens? And I like to be a part of the conversation around design, and a PR person can really put you into that space.
You now kind of have invested more and are working with someone pretty regularly. What was that decision to like kind of up that commitment? What did that look like for you, or why was that important?
That came around when, I started having more projects and I wanted a more consistent, interaction with press and the design community. And it just felt like a better ROI in terms of like how much we were doing and how much, they could kind of like release into, the stratosphere. And so, yeah, it's a bigger investment, but again, it really kind of puts you on a different platform. It just makes you more visible. The great thing about a publicist on retainer is they're going to advise you more on your brand. And I'm now like redoing my website. We'll even talk about like, an outfit to wear for like a panel conversation. They'll put you in touch with brands and brand opportunities. But, a thing about PR is that it really is like a longer term investment and it's like all about relationship building. And so you do want to give it like a fair amount of time to cultivate, certain results. And you want to communicate with your publicists along the way about what your expectations are in terms of, what kind of results you want and, what your goals are. And, you want to hear from them if that's realistic or in what sort of time frame like you can get like said results. It's the same thing that we do with our clients. Like it's all about managing expectations, and I think that's really important to have like clear communication with whatever publicist you're hiring. But again, it's like one of the great things about it is like they're going to take you on an avenue that you never really knew existed, and they're gonna make you try different things, and that's kind of like the juice from the squeeze, and it's exciting.
How long did it, you talked about that runway. How long did it take for you to feel the difference?
I felt like there were a couple like immediate, there was like a great press placement in an incredible magazine in the beginning, and then there were a couple brand relationships where we got like free artwork, actually with forehands or minted for projects. So there were a couple immediate things, and then it's kind of like everything. It like ebbs and flows. There's a lot of opportunities at one point, and then there's more just kind of like relationship building or like smaller press opportunities like in like various points. But yeah.
Has a publicist been an important piece of your brand building story, or when did the two of you decide to start working with PR?
It's been off and on.
Yes.
Yeah. So we've had, this year we do have a publicist. We did a couple years ago. During that time when we were building the store and the cocktail lounge event space, we took some time off from that because we didn't have a lot of time to do anything, speaking and things like that. But they've been great with getting placements and magazines and things like that.
Can you talk about that for a second? Because I think that's a really good point. You were saying, we took a pause on that because we didn't have the time. Can you talk about sort of the commitment that you're making, not just financially, but also kind of with your output or your effort when you do work with somebody whose focus is getting you kind of press and media opportunities?
It's actually it is a lot of time because they'll email you and say, like, end of day today, we need this like 3 paragraphs on this. So we have to answer their questions and get it back to them for something that's going to print
Tomorrow.
So so it could be stressful.
Monthly meetings.
Monthly meetings and then doing panels and things like that.
And then we do our own photos. So, that's something we do in-house as well. So the photography for us too, that portion during COVID was harder to get. So it was another reason too why we were working on projects, but not necessarily photographing projects. So that kind of took a pause too for a bit.
Beth, I'm going to jump to you because your big investment somewhat recently was getting out of that home office.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
I made the decision for multiple reasons. One, because I feel like in my home office, I was bursting at the seams. And I was like, there's literally no space to put anything else, even myself. And I know I was beyond the point where I knew I needed to also hire. And like, where are all these samples going? in this little closet where now I can't find anything. So I needed to make that investment. And also I needed the separation between like home and work, because now I'm in that little home office and it's like 11:30 at night. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm home. But I'll take a pause and I'll do laundry. It was just an unhealthy habit.
What were you looking for? What did what were you, because you found a space kind of for future growth, which I think is so interesting.
So I wanted a space. I looked at quite a few, and I realized like these people want you to pay a lot of money for a lobby that I wouldn't want to walk into at night. It was just, so I was very cognizant, like we're a luxury business, like what is the client going to see when they walk in? So a lot of places got crossed off the list. And funny enough, it was because of Swati that I found my current building, because I was like, I'm frustrated. I can't find anything. These people want $5 million for 50 square feet. And she told me about this building that I think you had toured a few months before. And it turned out at the time it was like 15 minutes from my house. And that's where I ended up finding my office space.
When you outfitted for like future employees, for future, like for the business you will have.
Yeah, so I actually I'm in my second office in that building. So I think I moved in like June 2022, somewhere I think the end of 2022 or beginning of 2023. I hired my first employee, and when she got into the space, I was like, oh my God, it's not big enough. I was like, you're not on top of me, but I feel like you're on top of me. Like we were just too close. And it wasn't a small space. And I was like, I think I'm just used to working alone. So by the time my lease was getting ready to expire, her and I were moving to a bigger space on a different floor within the same building. But this time I was like, you are not going through the rigmarole. You're not painting. You're not doing all these things. Like, move in, make sure that it looks good, make sure that the storage is right. So if you need to like hide crap from clients when they come in, I'm good. So now it's outfitted for myself and for 2 people.
Was that a hard investment to justify, or did you feel the impact on your business in a positive way?
I sometimes I still struggle with the expense, because the accountant in me, are
you like, I have that spare bedroom?
Yes. Yes. Because I still run my business the way I would run the finance departments for the corporations I looked at. So I still look at that P&L every week. I'll still look at my balance sheet every week, and I'm like, it's not a little bit of money. I'm like, I could be using that somewhere else. So sometimes I have to put myself on timeout and just stop looking at that line. Like the rent lease line it's above me now. You got to cross it out. You can't touch it. Just leave it alone. But before, when I had a home office, we had a presentation, I would always go to the client. But it was limiting, because now we're looking at things on my laptop. I'm only going to bring certain things that can fit on a certain size tray without it being too heavy, because I'm getting older. I got a bad back. I can't be bringing you all these trays and these heavy samples. I'm not doing that. But now the presentation experience is much better. Like they'll come in, they'll sit in the presentation area. I'll airplay it onto the TV. There's a space I always serve snacks and alcohol. They can turn down the alcohol. They can get something else. It's just the experience is different. There's like a level of comfort. And with that, I think there's also a level of professionalism. And then when we are going through that process and looking at samples, I don't have to worry about what I'm carrying. Now there are like 3, I think, 24-inch trays that are usually set up on the table, plus backups, plus whatever else we need. It's just a lot more efficient.
You also, when we were preparing for this conversation, you were telling me about your efficiency working out of that space, and that actually felt really profound to me. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I can honestly say I don't remember what I said.
Having an organized sample closet, having space to see
Oh,
what
yes.
you have, you know? You told me you work faster now. You work more
Oh,
efficiently now.
absolutely. See, getting older also makes you forgetful. So before, like in that home office, it was like a regular, bifold closet, and everything was crammed in there like sardines that I got to a point where I couldn't really find anything. But now there's like, one cabinet houses, like, I think the cabinets might be like 7 or 8 feet tall. And well, obviously I need a ladder, I'm short. Yeah. So one cabinet houses all the client trays. One cabinet is paint and wallpaper samples. Another cabinet is, tile. Like everything is labeled and organized and put a certain way. Everything is like color coordinated so I can find it because, again, I'm very OCD. So now I can move faster and with function because I kind of talked about this in the beginning, like you have to run your business based off your personality. And I do not work well in chaos. So sometimes when I would work from home, I couldn't work because I wanted to clean up. So now I'm just moving. And see, some people are like, yep, I'm the same way. I could just move much faster throughout the space because everything has a place.
I say, who else experienced a seismic shift when they got the office? Did that change anything for anybody else?
When we got the office, what was the question?
Yeah. Just like when you moved into an office, how does that change the way you work? How does that become a powerful investment in the business?
I think just like the points that Beth chipped, like having organized areas where your team sits, also like where your vendors come in to show you products and stuff like that. To have a separate space really helps with that, because I know a lot of people who work out of home don't want that like privacy infringe with vendors coming in and stuff. And a lot of our business is like seeing new things. Every quarter there's a new spring launch, and you have to kind of stay on top of what's going on in terms of trends. So being able to like see new things and having vendors over, and then having that separate space where also like that mindset perspective, right? You're going from your home to this area, and it's a separate area, and that's where you work. Now you move, but like I had my work in my dining room for the longest. There were books stacked up and stuff, and my husband would walk in and he was like, can we use the dining table? I was like, no, not till I move. Yeah. So, it does, like, there is a bit of, it's like the same thing how people have home offices. Can you not work from your dining table? Sure, you can. But when you're going to, it's like a mindset shift and the way you think about things. So I think it's always a good investment.
We started the dining room table too.
Yeah, I think everybody.
We were at the dining room table, and then we each have 3 kids, and they were tiny at the time, so they were running around us, and it was chaos, and it was too much. And we had this goal to have our first studio within 5 years, but then that quickly changed into the first year we had a very small studio, and then outgrew that, and then have moved a couple times. But now, finally, it does feel more organized. Mm-hmm. So we have the library with all of the different samples, with everything's alphabetized, which...
Does that change the way you work?
It does. It helps us quite a bit. We do have a couple people that are great with organization. Because I was okay with working in chaos. Okay.
And I'm not.
So that was fine with me. Yeah. But it does help. It helps our team quite a bit.
Yeah.
So
I want to go back to you. Your big investment has been show houses. I wrote this down because I wasn't going to remember. You have done a show house in 2018, 2019, virtually in 2020, 2022, and 2024?
Yes.
I want you to tell us all about that.
Okay.
Tell us about the first one first, maybe.
Yeah. So first one was, I used to work for a firm that used to do this show house called Mansion May, and I always wanted to like understand how they do it, because like it's very glamorous when you walk into a show house and you're like, oh wow, look at how gorgeous this is, and it was that almost like an aspirational thing. It's almost like as a fashion designer having a runway show of your own. It's almost like parallel to that. So the first show house was almost a fluke. It was a very small show house, and for children suffering with cancer, it's called the Valerie Fund, and they basically fund treatments and all the cause was amazing. Like I'm still associated with that charity. So it was a Valerie Fund show house, and I went and toured it, and then I didn't think I was going to do it. And then somebody from the organization reached back out and they said, well, they have the money for the cabinet, the appliances, this and that. I think more or less it'll be more furniture and stuff, and it wouldn't be a big investment. They lied. Because, sure, there was money for cabinets and this and that, but as a designer, if you're putting your name out there and if you're putting yourself out there and this is your first big splash, you don't want it to be a little puddle. You want it to be like a big splash, because literally a show house can make and break your, career almost. So I got like this biggest space in the house, which was a kitchen, a breakfast area, and a butler's pantry, which we made into a bar. And I don't know how I got talked into it, but I have a tendency to get talked into things. So
Would you recommend anyone do like a kitchen as their first show house space?
probably not. And not the stairs either. So, but I have to say, like, it was a great experience for me. It literally put me on the map. There were a lot of editors that walked through. And this was, I think we talked about this in our podcast too. This was like 2018, 2017, where like shiplap and white cabinets with like subway tiles was the hottest thing. And I did a green kitchen with a black countertop with geometric floors and a rose gold backsplash. And I thought either they'll love it or they'll hate it. I don't care. This is what I'm going to put out there. So I put out there, and the reception was amazing because I guess like nobody had seen that at that time. And I got published. I got a lot of future getting published opportunities. My name got into a lot of rooms that it wouldn't have been if I had not done it. I got 2 major clients out of it, and I'm still working with them on their second homes. So for me, that show house was like success and then some. And I was like, bring it on. Every show house in the market, I'm doing it. So, because it literally like got me a pipeline, got me published, put me on the map. Like, what else can you ask for?
How do you think about spending that money each time you say yes? Or are there times when you would say no?
I am saying no to something right now. But again, but let me just quickly finish the point about the show house. Is like, just to give a perspective that success is not continued. Yeah. So I did 2 more show houses after that. And they're one of the most visited show houses, but the kind of inquiries we got from them were not good. And that's what I'm turning down. They asked me to do it again, and I said, no, I haven't received any return. I haven't gotten any client that I would want to work with from this. And then the last one I did was Kips Bay, New York, and I did the staircase. Thus, do not do the staircase. Do not do the staircase. But that I got a lot of publicity out of it, and I just signed recently a very, very, very fascinating client, and I'm very excited about it. So in terms of investment, again, you have to see return on investment, number one. For me, doing that second show house was a no-brainer because the first show house was such a success, and I thought that I would be able to replicate it. But seeing the history of that particular show house after having done it twice, I know that I don't get any return on investment, so I'm not going to do that. But again, Kips Bay, I did get return. Even though it was a huge expense, I will probably do it again for what return on investment I got on it. Now, you asked me the question, how do you make a decision on whether you can? The first time, I was just flying by the seat of my pants. The second time, it was an informed decision. And I think that's something we have previously talked about. when I started my business, I wasn't from finance, and I was not looking at my Excel sheets. I was not looking at my systems. We hired an accountant, and I'm one of those people, if I put my mind to it, I really, really dive into it. I learned everything there is to know about P&Ls from my accountant. I would sit by her, teach me how to do it. And I check my books every 2 weeks. How are we doing with the health of our business? It's very important. And as if there's one thing you can take back from, you can't just be creatives and thrive. If you're just going to be creatives and not look at your business and not charge and not get paid for it, to work for somebody else. But if you really want to be a business owner and pay yourself, pay your employees, grow, it's very, very important to know your P&L. Look at the books. Look at the numbers, because you can't make any decision on investments. We're talking about so many investments right now. You can't make any decisions on investment unless you know what you have to invest. You can't invest $100 if you have $20 in your bank account. It's as simple as that. And if you're doing that, you're going to run out of money very fast and you'll be in negative, which is not a good place to be. Because when I started out, I was there for a minute. I was there. I did that too. We all made that mistake. There was a time I was like, I cannot. And now we were talking about investments. I make sure I have enough money in one's bank account, money market account, where I can, if I don't sign a project for 6 months, I can pay my team, I can pay my bills, I can pay everybody, because I don't want to be in that situation that I was in when I just started my business. Because in the beginning, the pipeline was like all great, and suddenly the pipeline dipped, and now I'm like, how am I going to pay my bills? So those are some hard lessons that I learned. So it's very important to look at your numbers. I know as creatives, we run from Excel sheets, we run for numbers. You can't just keep running on a hamster wheel all the time and taking on smaller and smaller clients, or this client or that client, random things just because you feel that scarcity. If you know your numbers and you know you're profitable, you don't have to take that kitchen or that bathroom or that small project that you're not going to enjoy and you're not going to make that much money on. How do you know how many new projects to take, where to invest without really looking at your books and your numbers? So it's very, very important to know your numbers, look at your Excel sheet, and any investments we make, even though they're wise investments or not wise investments, you need to have that money in your bank account to be able to make that investment, and not the money that you owe for products. That's another thing that people, I have gazillion dollars in my bank account right now, but that gazillion dollars is not yours. You have to pay all these bills. So think from that perspective too. Like sometimes people just see these numbers and are like, oh wow, now I can go buy this thing. And all the new business owners make that mistake. I made that mistake. And then I'm like, oh no, when you look at the Excel sheet, I owe 70% of this money to the vendors who I've only paid 50% to, and so I only have that 30%, of which 20% goes into savings, and that 10% is what I got to play with. So it's very, very important to exactly know what your books are. Otherwise, if you're just doing it for fun, that's a whole different thing. You know what I'm saying? But if you're doing a serious business, no business, and then that's the language you use with your clients too. If you don't know your own numbers and you go to clients, and most of our clients are successful people, that's why they're hiring us. If they are barely making money or they're not successful, they're not going to work with a designer. It's as simple as that. The people who are coming to designers and not doing DIY are successful people, and they know how business works and they know how numbers work. So if you're talking in their language, they respect you more.
Amazing. Do a show house, everybody. No.
Can I just add to that?
Yeah.
There's a big difference between an accountant and a good accountant. Yeah. And be very clear, the IRS does not care that you had a bad accountant. They will still audit you and want a big check. So that's, interview your accountant and interview your bookkeeper.
I'm going to make a hard pivot. We're going to talk about something fun. Okay. Because Renee and Christina opened a bar. I'm going to lead with that. But no, the two of you made a really big investment in a physical space, in a physical experience, so that you could really showcase your brand in a different way. And I want to hear that story.
It's our own show house.
Yeah. I mean, do you think of it that way in a lot of ways?
It is. It is, the way that we've operated over the last 9 years has been, what are the opportunities in front of us? Are we going to take that opportunity? What is the pace we're growing at? And we outgrew our last office and then saw a for lease sign in Glen Ellen. And we decided, to call this number. And we opened, because of that, ended up opening a retail store. That space was available, but it wasn't big enough for our office, for all of our designers. He said that he had 2 spaces that were connected to that were going to be available, that one of them had a bar in it, an antique bar. It was the first bar in the town, and we could not get rid of it. So, we said, well, what are we going to do with all of this space? And decided that we've always talked about doing some sort of experience, whether it's an event space, it is, we talked about investing in different properties and renting them out, or whatever it was that, we needed something different. And we knew that we wanted to do retail, but we wanted something else. So it just felt like this opportunity in front of us at the time. It was a lot to take on, and it felt overwhelming. But we said, well, let's just try this, and ended up taking over all 3 of the spaces, and then building that out over the course of a year. And then our design team is now in the back. We opened the cocktail lounge, and then event space that now has things like weddings even in the space, and birthday parties, anniversaries, things like that. But we created that space as we would someone's home. So it became our show house. And this is what we can do. And it's actually, we weren't sure what it was because it was something that was kind of different than what we've seen. But it's brought us a lot of business. It has done a lot more for us than we've expected. So
I was going to ask about that return on investment. When did you start to feel like, oh my gosh, we invested so much in this space and experience, this was 100% worth it? Did you know right away?
Well, I think initially for us with our design clients, we saw that return instantly because it was something that they could come touch, feel, see. So, we have a kitchen, a full operational kitchen in the space. We have the bar. We have like a bedroom area. We have like dining area. We have seating, like sofas and such. So it allowed everyone this opportunity for the design side of things to sit in a sofa or see the cabinetry or see an example of something or walk around and feel the space. And so then they're like, oh, I've never been in a home that Park and Oak designed, but I really like the way this space feels and I want to replicate that. It took a little while because our downtown was completely under construction at the same time as fate would have it. There was, the road was completely torn up. There was no sidewalk. It was insane. No one could drive down it. And so it took a little while to get some foot traction and maybe even people to understand what we had opened. Because for a lot of people, it felt like we opened a private club and that they needed a membership to come in, or why would you go to a design studio to get a drink? That whole idea felt very foreign to people.
we were so confused.
So we had a slow to warm, which was nice. But initially, our intent was not to have a bar. And I think it's really important to say that. Renee,
Sorry,
I think
I
secretly
led with
always
that, but
wanted
yeah.
to have a bar. I not secretly, did not want to be a bar owner. I said that often. I was like, I do not want to own a bar. She's like, don't worry, it's going to be fine. We're not going to own a bar. We're just going to have some drinks for people when they come in.
You got your bartending license.
Yeah, well, now I do, yeah.
Yes.
And then lo and behold, people are coming when they're not shopping and they're just sitting and they're drinking, and we don't have cocktail servers. So Renee and I are moonlighting as cocktail servers, which is amazing to feel like you're 46 years old and passing drinks out like you did when you were 20 after you worked all day. And then the village knocks on our door and they're like, hey, so it seems like your license might be a little different than what you thought. And we're like, oh. So we have to go to a meeting and present again that actually, hey, we are going to be a bar. And we are going to have events because apparently people like to hang out here and they don't want to leave. So we need to also hire a bartender.
Our license said they had to be shopping
Yeah.
actively.
Okay.
So everyone had a shopping bag at their seat.
yeah,
They're like,
really.
they're all shopping.
I think they're looking at the
Something in
art
the
on the
bag.
walls.
Is that really what you thought it would be at the beginning?
Well, everything's for sale.
Yeah.
Everything it's called the
Sorry.
parlor.
That's great.
But everything in there is for sale. All of the furniture, there's a lot of art on the walls, and we end up selling a lot of art. So, people are sitting there, they're having drinks, the lighting, everything has a price tag on it. So
Technically, you're shopping.
So technically you're shopping just by sitting there.
That's great. How has that changed the way you look at your business? Because that's such a seismic shift in terms of what that balance sheet is going to look like.
It has been, right.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a much bigger investment than we thought it was going to be. Once you get into a project, just like in residential, if you're building a home, it was a lot more than we thought it was going to be. But we have seen that it's brought in a lot more business than we thought as well. So, just having your name out there and having people come in and experience that has turned into a lot more than we thought.
That's amazing. I know we are at 5:00 and I want to give one quick moment for questions, but I have one final question for each of you because I think each of you is so thoughtful about the way you've grown your firm and spent your money. Entrepreneurship is hard. Spending money is hard. What kind of mindset do you need to take the risk, to spend the money, to wait sometimes for that return on investment?
I would say calculated risk. Everything I invest in is very thought out and considered, but some of my biggest returns have been kind of those risks where it was a lot of money and it kind of felt like my stomach was turning and I'm going to throw up, but like it just feels right. And if things like were to go bad, like I would have to figure something out in a few months or something, because I was so young as a business. But calculate your risk, make sure it's like, if something went wrong, you'd be okay. It wouldn't be great, but there's got to be a level of risk to really kind of reap that reward.
I would say for me, I just try to keep the money separate, like separate the revenue streams. Like if it's design fees, that's operations and making sure I can pay my bills. If it's merchandise deposits, like all that markup money, I do the same thing, like it sits in a money market and that's like my kitty. And my kitty was like a thing I used to do in corporate because people overspend, including corporate people. So it was like a secret bucket of money that I would hide in everyone's budget in case someone did something they weren't supposed to do. So that's like my backup fund. And then anything from like brand partnerships or something like that goes into like retirement, because I ain't finna do this all my life. I'm tired. So that goes into like literally like my SEP IRA, which is like your self-employment IRA fund, and that's where that's supposed to go. That's what should be happening if I'm doing the right thing.
I think before you start a business, really evaluate why you're getting into it. You know what I'm saying? Now, I'm assuming most of you are already business owners. And one of the things is, when you make investments, first and foremost, as an entrepreneur, you need to understand that you have to constantly make investments. You have to constantly, but also be aware of what kind of investments. And there's sometimes, investments will yield a lot of results. And there's sometimes they're just like functional that are required to do the baseline at work. So you kind of have to make those investments either way, but never overspend more than what you make. Like this is why, if there's one takeaway I want anyone from here, because we tend to be creatives, left-brained, and our right brain is like not that prominent. But as a business owner, it's very important to actually look at numbers, to actually look at Excel sheet, to actually look at numbers you have. Because if you're only spending what you're earning and not beyond that, you're going to be fine. Like even if the investment doesn't go in the right direction, at least you're padded up. And make sure you have a little bit of money that's squirreled away every single time before you make a new investment, so that if something doesn't work out, you have some fallback option. And you know what? One thing that nobody talks about is stuff goes wrong. Stuff goes wrong. You're on an install, contractor makes a mistake, or you make a mistake. You have to suck up that cost. If you don't have that backup, how are you going to get that money? So it's very important to have a kitty, like Beth said, and to have some backup plan for everything before you make investment on new things. And it's very important to look at your QuickBooks, look at your P&L, and constantly think that in the beginning of your business, you have to make a lot of investments, and you're not really making that much. You have to make sure you pay yourself, pay your lifestyle, because this is very hard business. And if you're not getting paid by the end of it, you're wasting your time. If you can't go out on vacation, if you can't buy the bags you want and the shoes you want, why are you even bothering with this? It's not worth it. It's a lot of work. It's really stressful. So make sure that
Preach.
you pay yourself. Make sure you pay yourself so that you have a comfortable lifestyle, and then make the investment and continue making investments. But make sure that you're not just working for the sake of working, but you're working because it's beneficial for you. Does that make sense?
I say don't be afraid of failure. So, and making mistakes. We've made a ton of mistakes. And and then we learn from them, and then we do something different, and then you do it the right way eventually. But sometimes it takes time. But you just can't have that fear that maybe you might fail, because it's okay to fail. So, we just keep trying different things, and then you see what works.
Which mine's pivot, which adds to Renee. Yeah. We just pivot. We weren't going to have a bar, and now we have a bar. So there, we pivot.
That's amazing. I know we are tight on time. I want everyone to be able to go out and have a drink, but do we have any questions in the audience? You raised your hand first. Yes.
Ladies, could you please recommend a software that you use for project management?
Just so everyone can hear it, yeah, a project management software recommendation.
And I'm sorry, very quick one. Where did you find the policy?
I use Asana internally, obsessed. It's been a game changer for my whole firm, and we use Studio Designer for project stuff, invoicing, which is a different kind of project management. And where do you find a publicist? I can recommend a few to you right now, and use your design community to ask around. You definitely want to get like a good referral. Yeah.
As far as systems, I'm going to say I don't know. And here's why, is because I haven't found a system that I loved. So right now I'm interviewing new systems. As far as a publicist, I have never used one. Every publication, every panel, everything was just like, I'm many things, and one of them is a hustler. But publicists are super important. And I know some amazing ones. It's just in corporate, I just learned it's like a bad thing is they teach you not to invest in that, which is dumb, and I'm still trying to train myself out of it.
Project management, we actually use several different things. The software we use is Ivy, and I've had that for a long time. It's House Pro now. We actually take all the sheets from there and convert into Excel, and my team is really proficient at making Excel sheets, and we track a lot of our project progresses on Excel sheets. We also have Asana and Google Calendar, so every time something's scheduled, it goes into all these different systems. We actually have very stringent and streamlined systems, and that's a whole different talk. But yes, so it's very important, like start out, like Excel sheets are great for like keeping tab on things, and then, sending those to clients as PDFs in terms of either when are things coming, how are we keeping tracks of things, and just keeping them updated, and we keep creating new tabs as project goes along. So that's one of the things. One of the tips, now I don't know if it's PC to say this, but like one of the tips I will give you, because
Do you care though?
I don't. But I just don't want to like malign this plan. One of the tips I'll give you, if you're not ready to hire up, because I dabbled with PR and publicist, and then I do a lot of my own PR too. But one of the tips that I'll give you, there are websites called Harrow, as I'm sure you know, and quoted. If you subscribe to that, a lot of those things like what paint colors are you looking at? What, like if there are reporters writing articles, they would shoot that on Harrow or quoted, and if you subscribe to that, you're able to actually answer to those reporters because they are also looking for new names and they don't
Really
have
quickly.
access to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they want those, like she said, like sometimes you'll see, I'm looking for an article on latest color trends by Thursday this week by 5 p.m. If you respond to it, now suddenly you're published in Elle Decor without a publicist. You can pay me later. Quoted, QWOTED, and Harrow, help a reporter out, HARO.
There's also PR Czars on Facebook, which is a group.
You want to talk about this one?
We just use Google Suites and Studio Designer.
And I will say, just as a somewhat shameless plug, on businessofhome.com, we also have an expert section where a lot of industry-specific publicists do list themselves, so you can find kind of a directory of professionals. And I would say if you are interested in hiring a publicist, reach out to several, get referrals, interview, find someone whose goals, communication style, and strategy sort of aligns with how you want to be presented in the industry. That's going to be like a really, finding the right partnership is just as important as finding the person, I think. Anyone else? Questions? All right. Well, thank you so much to all of you for being here. Thank you for sharing. And we'll see you out there. Let's go get a drink. Thank you.